Hey guys, so hopefully you watched the last video that I posted of me working with a client at the gym that I practice out of. So a little bit of background on that particular individual. I've known him for about 6 months, and during that time, he's kind of always talked like this, lots of thoughts, and he kind of never finishes a sentence. And I mean, it's just kind of state where you're around someone like that, and as a clinician, as a trainer, as a coach, as a whatever you are. You need to be thinking about their systems, right? And so how we present ourselves externally, our speech, our dialogue, our posture says a lot about our internal state that we don't maybe recognize all the time. So as much as that video was a great demonstration, like, woo, cool party trick, Danny, really what I think is super important is the role of, I don't even just want to call it breath work, but the ability to access a number of systems to get our people feeling better. Ultimately, that's why people are coming to us, right? And as much as Dave Tate gets kind of triggered when, coaches don't even do something like a needs analysis and know their clients, I think that it falls on us to be aware of what's going on systemically, because thinking about what's happening on a neuromuscular level or strength level, and what's happening in recovery, it's not enough. It really isn't, because there's so many other things influencing that. So there's been a lot of talk, really, I'd say probably in the last year or so, I've seen a lot of people come out with more information about Postural Restoration Institute, PRI. You've got DNS, you've got Kabuki, you've got RPR, really all these systems that are looking at the role of the diaphragm, right? And so it kind of gets written off as this weird like breath work, diaphragm, voodoo kind of thing. And it's not real clear. I want to clarify some of that for you, because when you can influence that many systems, again, like that's your key to actually getting people feeling better. And last I checked, when someone comes to work with us, they're trusting us with that. That's a big fucking deal. So if there's something that you can do to get someone feeling better, it's your responsibility to learn it to do it, right? I'm not going to claim to know all of the things. I have not put nearly as much effort into learning a lot of the physiology, and especially some of the like neuroreflexive stuff that goes on with this, way beyond my training. But what we did with Jeremy, a little background, he had history of right shoulder pain. He came in after a bunch of deadlifts and Shaker talked like this the whole time. And I was like, hold on, buddy. Just sit for a second. And he didn't even recognize that was his kind of ready state. That's how he was going through life. He was stressed. He wasn't sleeping well. As a whole, functioning fine. I mean, he's surviving, but like that's not why people don't come to us to survive, right? People come to us to get better, to feel better, to move stronger, all of the above. So history of right shoulder pain, tightness in his low back, and just having watched him deadlift enough and watch him move enough, I already know mechanically kind of where he's locking out, where he's generating strength from, and some of the mechanical patterns that contribute to our postural tendencies, postural habits, which is where he spends the rest of his day. So when he goes and has a heavy deadlift day, not only does he stay in the whole sympathetic ramped up, which again, addressing that is not enough, state, he then continues to condition that habit. He's a chest breather. He's an extender. His ribs are popped up and flared out. His infrasternal angle is really wide, right? That tells me he's got very little control over his obliques and where they attach. That tells me his diaphragm is flat. It's not going to have the opportunity to dome up and down the way it needs to. Diaphragm is really important for central nervous system regulation. It's also a huge postural stabilizer and obviously a respiratory muscle. And on top of that, if we look at his rib cage and we want to say, okay, well, let's talk the scapular-thoracic joint. On a rib cage that is popped up, flared open, we know his ribs on the back are kind of flattened. We also know that his scapula is inherently a curved surface. So when you try to put a curved surface on a flat one, they can't sit together really well, and it changes a lot of the ball and psychodynamics big picture. Eric Kresge has done a ton of work on this. So if you have more questions about that, highly recommend him as a resource. But it looks a lot at shoulder rotation. So great. I'm like, all right, he's got a flattened rib cage. He can't actually exhale. If you can't exhale, are you ever really going to get a good inhale? So if you have a client who breathes like this all the time, and they never exhale and stay there, they're probably not ever really going to get a good full inhale. So you see this kind of postural change and some of these breathing mechanics have an influence on even things like blood pH, because they're not able to get a breath in. Do they know that? Probably not, but I'm sure if you told them, hey man, you're chest breathing a lot, can you just like sit for a second? They'd probably buy that. So really what I looked at with Jeremy was, he didn't need to know that I was looking at all of his systems, right? I gave a little bit more dialogue in that video that I would give him just during a session. You'll notice that I tried to get kind of his right shoulder to open up. Some of that is because we don't have the same structural support in our right lung to help kind of keep that open and supported. But really, that video was intended to be a demonstration of, as much as, you get on social media and people want to talk about breath work, they want to talk about the rib cage position, they want to be anti-fragile and all the things, talk about bracing. This breath work is so much more than sympathetic, parasympathetic. It is so much more than bracing, not bracing, because it has a power to influence the musculoskeletal system, shoulder rotation. We went from a firm end feel to actually getting capsular, which I like. I'd rather have a capsular than an osseous end feel with shoulder rotation. We're influencing musculoskeletal system. We're influencing central nervous system because of that oxygen change, right? Like if we have a mismatch in oxygen, carbon dioxide, we have receptors in our major arteries and our carotids that send information directly to the brainstem. You want to talk about access to your central nervous system? Like, holy crap. We're talking about is bracing. After just a couple days after this session, Jeremy comes to a class that my husband and I teach at the gym. It's just a group training class for people that want to learn powerlift. And I gave him one different cue with bracing, and he ended up hitting a massive PR that I stopped only because I was like, okay, like you haven't touched this weight from this many reps, like ever, not even close. Let's keep tissues happy and healthy too. And he commented that he had no idea how much air he'd been putting here for his brace. So there's that kind of performance related side to things too, right? I guess all that to say, what I would hope this video would demonstrate would be a true intellectually honest look at, aside from all the camps of, it's this institute or this one, aside from, well, this article says this and this one says something totally different. Please be intellectually honest when you look at your patients or your clients too, and recognize they're coming to you for help. And it's not about what camp it is. It's not about, shouldn't be about anything but them, right? And so if you really want to help them, the power to influence systems more than just one thing or another is really how people get better.